everybody, my name is Lauren Sevier and it's been a couple weeks since I've talked to you guys. I am going to be talking today about budgeting for editing. Super fun topic, I know. I'm rocking mom bun and my glass of wine as well. So first things first, I always feel like I have to justify where I get my experience in certain areas from. And as far as budgeting goes for anything really, but for editing services, I've gone through rounds of betas. I've talked to editors, requested quotes from editors for different projects. I haven't currently gotten any of my works in progress professionally edited. But I also, to make my family run and my life run, the fact that I have, a 5-month-old baby, he's 5 months today, you guys, that's crazy. And a husband who works full-time, I work full-time. We went through IVF. I mean, our baby was a $40,000 baby, and I should have named him Mercedes Luxury Edition because he could have been one. But the only way that I'm able to pay a mortgage and car notes and have been able to pay for IVF is budgeting. And so our family uses tenets of minimalism, tenets of frugality, homesteading, Dave Ramsey debt pay. We definitely do utilize the debt snowball method, not the avalanche method, in our household. But there's several different things that we use on a daily basis in our financial lives that help us to be able to pay for extra or ancillary things like cover art, editing services. My husband wants a new grill kind of thing. So that's kind of where this is coming from. These are budgeting tips and tricks that I use, just some advice, to give to people, because if you're anywhere close to where I'm at with your WIP, you've gone through November, NaNoWriMo, you've gotten a first draft done, or you already had your first draft done and you finished it or added word count during NaNoWriMo. Maybe like me, you took December off to take a breather, enjoy holidays with family, and now here it is at the end of January. A lot of us have finished our initial read-throughs and we have a good scope of our projects now and the developmental edits that we're about to be making. So this is a good time, now that we see the scope of the project and we see the scope of the changes that we need to make to our work, to plan ahead for the things that we're going to have to purchase later, like cover art, if that's what you want, or editing services. Specifically, I'm going to talk about editing today, but a lot of these tips that I'm going to give you guys can be applied to really anything. If you're saving for a vacation, or if you're saving for a really hot new pair of shoes, or, if you're saving for cover art because you're wanting to self-pub this year at the end of the year. Whatever you want to do, you can totally do. But I'm going to dive right in and talk about my budgeting tips. The first one is to be a conscientious consumer. What this means is to shop around and shop around some more. The few editors that I've talked to or I've been friends with on Twitter and asked questions of, they have absolutely no problem emailing with people and giving them quote or giving them a detail of their services. A lot of editors, they don't do like a, hey, here's a novel package for however X many dollars. Normally it's by word count. So if you have like a 200,000 word masterpiece, you really need to start saving now. Or like yesterday, if you have a 50,000 word, novella, or a short story that you just really want some editing done, well, then your goal is not going to be quite as much money if it's by word count. So that's definitely something to consider. Now, when me and my husband were going to get new floors, what did we do? We went to stores. We figured out what we liked, what we didn't like. We found the type of flooring that we wanted in our house. And then from there, we went to a few different places and got quotes for the service. At least 3. That is my recommendation. Go to at least 3 editors or editing services and quote what it's going to take to get your project completely done the way you want it done. Okay, that will tell you who's the highest end, who's the lowest end, but a lot of editors, especially if they're worth their salt, won't mind giving you an in-depth sort of analysis of everything that they're going to offer you, or even show you samples of what you can expect. And so that way you can kind of get a rapport going with someone, and you can also kind of figure out, who is going to give you the most bang for your buck. Because, everyone's kind of looking for something different out of the editing experience. Let's face it. We all want a really refined, piece, but it really just depends on where your whip is, what you're looking for as far as feedback, etc. So get at least 3 quotes from 3 different people. That is what being a conscientious consumer, my rule number 1 is. I'm going to stop pointing now. It's rude. My second tip is to set a goal. Know where you're going. Know what the goal is. If the goal amount is $1,000, then make that your goal. Hey, I want to spend $1,000 on editing. I can't spend any more than that. I'm not spending any more than that. Whatever it may be. You can get your quotes before or after this. These steps can kind of be done in whatever way you feel works best for you. Personally, I would get quotes, and then I would say, okay, this is what I think is a fair price based on the quotes that I got. This is my goal. And then I would go from there. My third tip is know where your money is going. So this was a big deal for us whenever we were going through IVF. We didn't realize how much money we were nickel and diming away. Just, coffee at the gas station when we got gas, or, just picking up Subway for lunch instead of packing lunch with us because it was easier. When we really looked at 2 months worth of our checking statements and we itemized it and went through it with a fine-tooth comb, it was ridiculous how much money was just being wasted because of little tiny purchases here and there. Ridiculous. So what I recommend is to print out your last 2 checking statements if you have a checking account. If you only have a savings account, just go over the last 2 months of your credit card bill, whatever it is that you use. Go over the last 2 months. It does, not even that long. 1 month, okay, things can come up. Your tire could have blown and you have a couple $100 you have to spend that's not normal for you. But 2 months, I think, will show you pretty much all your bad habits. If you're eating out too much, if you're going to the movies too much, if you're spending way too much money on clothes, and can cut that back. If you have 27 of these $5 subscription boxes that aren't doing you any good, 2 months worth of your statements is going to show you where your money is going, and you will be able to find places to tighten the belt. What did I do when I initially went through IVF? Well, immediately I was like, okay, we can't eat out as much as we do right now, and we can't go to the movies as often as we've been going. That's crazy. And I also had a ton of makeup subscription boxes, most of which I didn't even really realize I was still paying for, that I was still getting, and I wasn't even really using the stuff. So a lot of money was just being thrown out the window. So that is that tip. If you know where your money's going, then you can see where you can tighten the belt, things that you can kind of cut back on or take out of your budget, to help you get even 20 extra bucks a month being put aside. That goes a long way towards your goal, especially when we're talking about, saving for editing services and things like that. You never know. It may take a year. It may take a year and a half for your whip to be there. So any little bit that you can put aside to reach your goal is really going to go a long way. My next tip is meal prep is your friend. So this really applied to me and my husband when we were budgeting for IVF, when we were, just trying to restructure financially and be more responsible with our money. I realized that we were eating out a lot. And part of that was because when my husband's at work at the fire station, what they do as a crew is they'll go to a store, they will buy everything, and they'll all put in however much money or whatever for the shift, and they'll buy everything they need for breakfast, lunch, dinner for the entire day, and they cook at the fire station. So even though he was spending money, out or whatever, it was, then they would stop by and get wings as a snack, or they would, stop and get coffee, and he'd, get an $8 coffee from Starbucks, on the way back to the station from a call or whatever, And so it ended up not just being, the set amount for him to eat at the fire station. It would be more than that. And for me, I travel for my job. And there are times where, unless we had I work in the medical field, if we didn't have a pharmaceutical rep who came and wanted to have lunch with the doctors and provided lunch for the office, we'd have to go out and get lunch, or we had to bring lunch. And there was not a lot of time for me to eat, because of the schedule, the way the schedule was, I don't know what I'm saying and so a lot of times it was easier for me to walk across to the hospital and get something from the hospital cafeteria and just spend my money on my little badge or whatever, or to just run down the road 5 minutes and go through a drive-through, eat on the way back, and then be back in clinic. So that was easier for me, but it's definitely not what's best for me health-wise. And it's definitely was not healthy for my budget. And so I realized I was really spending a ton of money just eating. And then all this food was at my house just going to waste. So yeah, meal planning is your friend. Now, if you're from Louisiana like I am, or you listen to Dave Ramsey at all, like I have done and like I do, he's a fan of saying, when you're broke, rice and beans, beans and rice. Well, in Louisiana, we love red beans and rice, okay? We'll go to a restaurant and order red beans and rice. It's a staple down here. And so I thought that was kind of funny, because whenever we really started trying to be more financially responsible and I realized how much we were eating out, I just kind of wanted to plan our meals a little bit better for the week, and stuff that we could eat on for a day or two. Just because there were times where John was home and there were times where he was not home. So if I cooked, it had to be something we could eat together, but also something I could eat leftovers on, because I don't want to cook for just me. I mean, that seemed pointless, a waste of dishes and time and effort and all this other stuff. So for me, being able to plan meals with leftovers was a big deal. And so I got really big into eating red beans and rice and cornbread, just because you could eat on that for a while. And it's cheap. It is so cheap. Dave Ramsey's right. Red beans and rice are cheap, and they're good, especially if you make them right. Anyway, so moving on from that one, the meal prep one, my next tip is pay your bills, then your savings, then yourself. So there's a lot of people out there who tell you pay yourself first, because you're always going to have the rest of your life to pay your bills and all that. Well, and that's good advice for, living peacefully. But if you're saving towards a goal and you don't want to live in a house without power, pretty much the rule of thumb is pay your bills, all of your needs, your mortgage, your car note, your groceries. Make sure you have food on the table, a roof over your head. Make sure you have light and heat. Pay your needs, Then, because that is kind of paying yourself. I mean, nobody wants to live in a house with no heat. Anyway, then pay your savings, okay? So what you have left after that, normally, let's just say you have $200 left after you paid all your bills, and that has to last you 2 weeks. Okay, well, instead of, and I mean, that's just spending money, not gas here and this there. No. So $200, $100 a week until you get paid again, right? Well, I mean, make that $50. Make sure you're bringing your lunch with you and that you're planning for leftovers with your meal prep. And guess what? That's an extra $100 that you just put towards your goal in 2 weeks. I mean, so pay your bills, your needs, pay your savings, even if it's only $5, whatever you can spare, then pay yourself. Okay? Some people are going to have a bigger leftover amount after their monthly or bi-weekly bills, however you get paid. Some people aren't. Some people are only going to be able to put $5 away. Some people will be able to put a couple $100s away. I mean, just do what you can. Eventually you'll get there if you stick with it. Anyway, so my next tip is avoid credit cards and loans. Save and pay out of pocket to keep from paying interest. So, I mean, if you're somebody who, you're trying to build your credit, you always pay your credit cards off on time, then yeah, utilize credit cards or loans, if that's something that you can do responsibly without digging yourself into a hole. But I would say probably 7 out of 10 of us aren't using those things correctly and are digging ourselves into a hole. And honestly, it kind of puts a bad taste in my mouth. Like when I think about it, about how much money I pay people to borrow their money, like the interest rates on some of these credit cards and loans are crazy. So don't take out a loan for cover art or editing services or charge it all on a card because you're going to end up paying more for it anyway. It's so much better if you start early, you save what you can, and you pay out of pocket, because then it's just that fee and then you're done. You don't have to pay extra interest. You're not paying extra money on anything else. I mean, there's just a satisfaction in knowing that there's nothing else that's going to come back and bite you in the butt later, So I would encourage you, if at all possible, do not use credit cards and loans just because you're paying extra money in interest, and this is about saving money, not spending it. Anyway, my next tip is, okay, so this one is more about the editing part than the budgeting part, but it comes in with the budget. Self-edit and refine your work to lower costs. Like I said, a lot of editors, they go by word count. So if you have gone through your manuscript with a fine-tooth comb, you've taken out all of those unnecessary filler words, you've axed those unnecessary characters or subplots that just fell flat, well, that's going to affect your word count. A lot of times when you get it down and you get it really, really refined, you get that word count down where you need it to be for editing. It's going to save your editor time. It's going to save you time. It's going to save you money. So I do recommend going through several drafts before you seek editing, just because the lower you can get that word count, the lower your price tag is going to be. I use the Chicago Manual of Style, which, if you haven't checked that out, it's just sort of a resource for editing and self-editing. It's been really helpful for me in the past, so that's just something to tell you guys. You can use critique groups to help refine your work, or to help point out where there's some characters who really don't have a purpose, or subplots that fall flat that can be axed. Solid beta readers. Okay, solid beta readers are really going to help you get your work where it needs to be before you go to an editor and get that word count down. So I feel like that's really important. Actually, I have a friend of mine who, and this is something you can look into too, maybe it's beta readers, but someone who is starting their own editing service and needs to basically like bump up their portfolio. So they do some services like beta reading, which is sort of light editing. Let's face it. There are people who point out glaring mistakes in the development process of a novel. But people who are starting their editing services, who need to build their portfolio, will oftentimes offer some of their services for free, or at least offered a beta for you for free. And that's really like solid betaing, which can really help refine your work and get that word count down. And I have a friend, actually, Megan, who is doing something similar, which is why I thought about it. she's starting a proofreading business, and so she actually messaged me on Facebook recently and asked if she could beta for me, and so I'm going to be using her for my WIP. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and link her email down below, just in case any of you are at the same stage that I'm at, where you're kind of looking for betas, but you're not quite there yet. Something to consider. I mean, I have my friend, there are still other people out there too. You can find them on Twitter. You can find them through different author groups. But yeah, so that's another thing to kind of utilize. Like, somebody who's a really solid beta will really help you refine your work and get that word count down, which will save you money and time. And it will also mean that whenever you buy the editing services from the professional editor, they can really focus on the things that you want them to focus on, not the little nitpicky things that a solid beta could find for you. Anyway, so my next tip is consider online editing software to refine, such as Autocrit or Grammarly Pro. So I actually, when I won NaNoWriMo, this year, there was an offer for winners through Autocrit that they could get like 3 months at a discounted price of like $45, which is like $15 a month. And so I signed up for that, and I paid that just so I could kind of see what it was about, but also so I could like run my WIP through and see if it would like ding the unnecessary filler words and stuff. Oh my God, it was awesome. It was like, hey, you used this word 280 times. Fix that. Which was awesome. And what's really cool about Autocrit, and I don't really know the differences between the two. I know that Grammarly has a similar like paid service. What's really cool that I liked about Autocrit when I signed up for Autocrit was that you can actually like select your genre and everything, and you can compare your manuscript or your chapter or whatever you've like loaded into the site with other published works in that genre and see like where it measures up as far as editing and refinement and all of that. So that I really liked, which is why I chose to do that. And I only did it for a couple of months because I really just wanted to get out, again, a lot of the bad habit words, a lot of the unnecessary filler words. I just kind of wanted to help the structure a little bit. I didn't want to like, you know, hey, this is my thing that I have in the closet or whatever that I'm just going to pull out whenever. No, I mean, obviously I want a professional editor, somebody who's subjective to actually read my work and go over it. That's the goal. But it is a cheap way if you want to spend just 3 intense months of like really refining your work, and you use like a coupon like that or whatever. $15 a month is so much cheaper than spending hundreds more dollars because you didn't take out, you know, some weird subplot or whatever in your work. So that is something to consider when you're getting your work ready to be edited to help lower cost. Again, pros and cons. How dedicated are you going to be? How often are you going to use it? What program do you want to use? How much is that going to cost? Do your research. Be a conscientious consumer. Rule number 1. Anyway, my next tip is strategically use gift cards. This one's just sort of, I guess, a life tip that can be applied to budgeting and saving for editing services and stuff. So when I get gift cards from people, and I got a gift card from someone recently, like a belated Christmas gift, I normally just put all of the gift cards in this like little bowl thing where we keep our change, and it stays there until we need it. And by need it, I mean like really need it. Like if I have a Kohl's gift card and I need a new outfit for Easter Sunday at church, I'm going to leave it in there until I need it for Easter Sunday at church. Or one time, my mom actually got me a gift card for Soma, which is like the bra place. It's like a fancy bra place. And I kind of I just kept it in that bowl, and I was like, I don't need anything right now. I could go out and buy stuff that I want, but I don't need anything right now. And I have a feeling I'm going to need something from there, eventually, later, whatever. Well, whenever I found out I was pregnant, and as my pregnancy progressed, I got really nice nursing bras on sale, actually, because I had that and planned ahead. I got really nice nursing bras. I got these really nice slippers that I could bring to the hospital whenever I went to go have my son. It was really great. And I spent none of my own money. And so that didn't come out of my budget. So I was able to put more money aside to save. Anyway, so utilize gift cards strategically. When you get a gift card, don't just immediately use it. Wait until, you have the opportunity to use it for something you need instead of something you want, basically. My next and last tip is, if you're a student, ask for money for holidays and special occasions. It might take you longer to save, but be aware, especially if you're a college student. I know a lot of college students aren't working while they're going to school. Their school is their main job, and as it should be, it's very, very hard. I had to work through college, and it was incredibly difficult. And I had to stop and start, and it was a disaster. So if you're not working through school, good on you. Stay focused. Anyway, just be aware it's going to take you longer to save, because if you don't have a source of income, a regular source of income, it's going to be harder for you to save money. That's just, kind of basics there. But if you ask for money or things that you need, well, I don't know. Ask for things that you need, obviously, first. But if you have, the opportunity to say, I'd really like money, not a gift card, money. I'm saving up for editing services or cover art or whatever, then you can always put it in an account somewhere, all that jazz, But yeah, it's going to take you longer. Just be aware it's going to take you longer, and stay the course. Stay the course. It's worth it. Your writing is worth it. Invest in yourself. You are worth it. Anyway, so those are my tips. They're a little bit jumbled, probably because I've had a little too much wine tonight. Hashtag sorry, not sorry. Anyway, so those are just some of my tips. I do encourage all of you, wherever you're at in your writing journey, start planning and budgeting now. It is so much harder to try and come up with a large sum of money whenever you need it, right then and there. And it's so demoralizing, I think, for us as writers to be oh, yes, it's there. It's right there. I just need this extra push, and then I can start submitting and querying, and we're on fire. And then it's oh, you need $1,500 for that. What? All that momentum and that forward motion just comes to a grinding halt, and it's sort of demoralizing. And I think it's really easy for us, as people who are really creative, to get into these creative outbursts or whatever without doing a lot of long-term planning. I'm sort of this weird mix of both, which is why I'm a pantser, but also super type A planner. And so I do encourage you now, wherever you're at, if you haven't started planning and saving for cover art, editing, whatever costs that you're anticipating for the end of this project, start thinking about them now, start planning for them now, start making room in your budget now. It's not a fun topic, I guess. It's not as fun as talking about how to kill a character off, or some of the other really fun stuff that we talk about sometimes. But it's definitely one that I hope serves you well. So anyway, I'm going to finish this before my baby wakes up. My big boy, who is 5 months old today, and I'm going to spend some quiet time with my husband, because we haven't had quiet time in a few weeks. I'm rocking the mom bun today. It's been a rough couple weeks. Anyway, I hope that this video finds you well, Happy writing, happy budgeting. Let me know what you do to save for your endeavors, or if you have any questions, or if you'd like to see like a mock-up of my own actual personal budget, I'm cool with that too. I mean, you'll probably cry about how little money I make, but that's okay. Anyway, comment down below, like it, don't like it. It'd be really cool if you liked it. Subscribe, all that good stuff. Or not, do you. Anyway, I hope you'll have a great night.